Welcome to the Florida State postgame show live here at the Voice of College Football Florida. And man, what a past like 3 days, our Thanksgiving weekend it has been for the Gators. Not just did we just beat FSU by 20 points. A lot of success has been on the recruiting trail and the basketball team jumping up this top 10 in the Ken Palm rankings. I mean, University of Florida is on a tough fire right now. And, we're at a point where we're going through that FSU game. Florida's up 2-3 scores the entire time. And I was disappointed. We're actually getting to the point to where we're on the road against a rival, winning by 3 scores, and I'm upset. I mean, that's the point you want to be at, really.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way during this game. Like, I'm overall, and we'll get into it, I'm overall a little bit frustrated with the inability to pull away for a lot of this game. I think there was a lot of sloppiness and just things that they could have done better. But at the same time, it is important to have some perspective and be this is a Florida State team that, we didn't think this was necessarily even a winnable game coming into the year, looking at the schedule and what we thought it would be. So, yeah, I mean, certainly good vibes. I mean, it's been a good couple weeks of vibes here, but I think, especially like you said, these last few days, just around the entire athletic department, things kind of feel like they're starting to look up a little bit. So we'll see if that trend continues into signing day this week.
It definitely has, but let's talk about the news that broke earlier today. Tavares Dice, 4-star offensive tackle from Fairburn, Georgia, flipped from Auburn to Florida. This is one that we talked about a good bit on the show that, he's always been with Auburn. Florida kind of just kept in it. It was no one else really. But then, hey, Florida comes, snatches him up 3-4 days away from signing day. I mean, we talked about offensive line recruiting has not been to what we would consider a Gator standard. But, I mean, you get Tavares Dice still looking to flip 5-star offensive lineman Solomon Thomas. I think maybe not just his recruiting turning a corner, but O-line recruiting in general is also turning a big corner. You look over the past couple, since Sale's been here, we've gotten a couple 4-star guys. We've gotten a Roderick Kearney, a Marcus Maskell, Caden Jones, a Fletcher Westfall. Jason's in the middle if you count that, because he transferred technically from USC, but still a freshman this year. So they're definitely starting to build some pieces, but now we need to go and hit on some big-time guys.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. And I think you kind of got there a little bit with Dice today. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you feel differently. But I kind of got the impression that, up until today, or at least the last couple of days, the vibe kind of seemed like people were expecting Dice to maybe stick at Auburn. Sort of the same with Jaden Woods, the guy from Penn State who they flipped on Friday. I think it kind of seems like they made a nice push in this last week with some of these guys who it didn't necessarily seem like they had as much momentum with as they did maybe after the LSU win. Well, I mean, I'm curious what this means about Solomon Thomas. I'm curious if you can get both of these guys. I mean, I think, Solomon Thomas is more of an interior guy, so it's not like you're getting your tackle, you're using your tackle spot on Dice instead. I do wonder, though, if this is a sign that maybe they're putting their attention more on Dice than Solomon Thomas.
So one thing I will say about Dice, I read an article when Dice was interviewed about the commitment. He said that he committed to Florida after the LSU game. He said that he knew he was going to commit or flip to Florida. After the LSU game, DJ Lagway went up to him and told him, "Hey, man, we need to bring you down here," called him by name. And that's when Dice knew that, hey, this is what he wants to be a part of.
Yeah.
And then going back onto the Solomon Thomas thing, Dice 6'4", 295, measurables can be questionable at this right now, but maybe he gets to 6'5". I don't know the wingspan. We were both trying to figure this out before the show, but we couldn't figure it out. So I do wonder how much of a true tackle he is, because Solomon Thomas is about this, maybe a little heavier, also 6'4", 6'5" range. Although I do know Solomon's probably more of a true guard. And honestly, after this LSU game, I think Thomas, I kind of had the opinion that our guards were kind of set going into next year, maybe the year after. But after that one, I could see Solomon Thomas now maybe branching his way into that starting role.
You're saying for the Gators, in 2025?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was definitely something I was a little, and again, we'll continue to get into the game itself, but like that was something I didn't really like to see today was just how much, because I think they've done it. The O-line's done a pretty good job protecting Lagway over the few games. And I know FSU's got guys like their front is talented, even though it hasn't always shown up in terms of production this season. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't love that. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't know. I think you could probably see a path to early playing time along the interior of the offensive line next season.
Yeah, so if we look at the offensive line, we're looking at Dice coming in or a Solomon Thomas, but let's stick to Dice here real quick. So if he's a tackle, we're looking at the tackle room right now. Austin Barber and Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. Dixon's a senior, so he's gonna be gone after this year.
Yeah.
Barber, I don't know how much NFL look he is going to get. He could go. I think he might stay though. So Barber's probably staying for next season. I know Caden Jones, who was a 4-star we brought in the second cycle under the Napier era. I know before the season, he was getting a lot of talk about possibly being a guy that could step up. So you look at him in that room. You also have a 4-star in Fletcher Westfall, probably the highest ranked recruit that we have landed at the O-line in before. I'm not even sure who the highest before him was. It may have been Martez Ivy.
Yeah.
Which would just be really bad. Or no, Richard Garage. He was the highest since Richard.
Good call.
So there is that. And then maybe a Marcus Maskell's a true freshman also. Maybe that's another guy that they're looking at who could be a tackle. But, I mean, Dice, definitely an opportunity. It's a young room. So if you're a young guy and you're looking to come here and if you think you can step up, definitely an opportunity for a true freshman. Maybe not a true freshman in the SEC, but definitely an opportunity to try to make an impact.
Yeah, if not in the starting lineup, at least, rotationally. I mean, we've talked about, you and I on the show before, about how we both think that you're going to need to portal multiple starters along the offensive line this offseason, just not even because it's a weakness, but just because of what you're losing. So, yeah, I mean, opportunity for playing time will be there just because this rotation is going to look a lot different in 2025.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then if we go to Thomas, if you look at the guard rotation, Damian George, he didn't play. He was in a boot before the game. So Bryce Levette got the start. I was really high on Bryce Levette. But, man, Daryl Jackson, the D tackle for FSU, he was in the backfield the entire game. I mean, there was a play where DJ Lagway just shrugs him off. Yeah. That play's all over social media. Yeah. So, I mean, they let Lagway get his one big play. That's going to be like, how does he do this? But, man, they were just – our offensive line just – yeah, I mean, if you look, Jaya Harris, he's likely going to start next year. Bryce Levette returning. And then after that, you have a guy like a Roderick Kearney, 4-star. He's playing on the interior. I'm honestly not sure who else there is. We're bringing a guy like a Daniel Pierre-Louis, who's probably going to be a guard. So I'm honestly not even sure who the rest of the room is right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a lot of question marks. And like Pierre-Louis is a guy, like, I think that's a long-term project too. Like, I think portal guard is going to be a need, but maybe a little bit less so if you land a Solomon Thomas, just because you hope a guy like that can at least play, if not start and be reliable, like at least, get some snaps.
We're also missing Cameron Waits, but I think we've seen enough from Cameron Waits to know that he really isn't the guy that
I'm with you. I'm with you there.
And Christian Williams, who was a guy they brought in, who was a recruit that Billy had at Louisiana and got him to come with him. But let's start talking about the Gator game. The Gators do end up winning it 31-11. Interesting final score there, with FSU electing to go for 2 after their touchdown and getting it. We did win by 20 points. I kind of wish Billy did just kind of stick it to him, He had we were really injured in this game again. Like, we were getting, first play of the game, Cam Jackson gets rolled up on. Cam Jackson did end up returning. So there is that. And then Caleb Banks later in the game gets hurt. I'm not sure if he returned or not.
I'm not sure he did either. I'm not sure. I don't think he did, but I'm not positive.
And then I guess Jordan Castell was also hurt because Greg Smith got a ton of playing time this game. So, this defense was already insanely injured.
Yeah.
But then in that, we were up 24-3, 21-point lead in the fourth quarter. But we're playing the backups of the backups who are already playing. Guys like a Brian Taylor who were in there, a DJ Douglas who were in there. I kind of wish we kept the starters in and didn't let them get that last touchdown. And then I would have liked it if we would have won 31-3, But, I mean, I can't be mad about a 20-point win on the road against a rival. So,
yeah, I mean, the way the game played out was certainly closer than what we projected. It just I don't know, man. It was just sloppy. I mean, FSU fumbles the ball 8 times and you recover 5 of them. Couldn't really capitalize on a lot of these opportunities. And Mike, about the planting the flag, I don't know how you feel about this, Tyler. With all due respect, I just don't agree with this. If you win the game, within reason, if you win the game, you can act how you want. And if you don't want the other team to plant the flag at midfield of your stadium, win the game. In all seriousness, if this was in Gainesville and Florida State had killed Florida and they did that, I would not be whining. I would not be complaining about it. I truly, that's just how I feel about it.
They took turf from us last year.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is something. And Mike Norvell was the one to come and unplan it or took it out the ground. I mean, then in his press conference, to not sound like a hypocrite, he kind of just avoided it, come on, man. You're the one who your team has done actions like this in the past. And now you're coming out acting kind of like a crybaby and unplanning the Gator flag. But honestly, where the team is, the offensive line, they just weren't doing it today.
Yeah.
I mean, DJ Lagway didn't have any time to throw. The run game was inconsistent. The run game was. Because you look at Montreal Johnson, 10 carries, 99 yards. He had the big 65-yard touchdown run. So that's 34 yards outside of that touchdown run. Jaden Ball, 11 carries for 81 yards. So he was probably the most consistent of the backs. But those 81s were also 2 big 20-yard runs. So, I mean, still. So that's about what you would expect right there. Jacoby Jackson, 10 carries, 51 yards. So, the running game was very inconsistent. But, overall, when you look at a stat sheet, it looked like it went well. But we just couldn't consistently get the running game to work and drive down the field.
Yeah, I mean, ran the ball a lot of times. I still feel like there were times that maybe you still should have run the ball when you were being more aggressive in the passing game. Because I agree about the Lagway was under a ton of pressure in this game. Mm-hmm. I don't think that completely absolves Lagway of what I would say was probably his worst performance as a starter.
Yeah.
Just a lot of misses, just straight up misses, bad throws.
Couple drops though.
Couple drops that were also drops, but also misses. You know what I mean? One or two that was not a great ball, but still probably catchable. But also it's a wide open guy. Come on, DJ, put it on him. That's kind of how I felt about it. Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, not a lot of the offense. The plan, the design, I mean, the way they looked coming out of half, none of it felt good or made a lot of sense tonight.
No.
I think tonight really did underscore why Billy Napier needs to go hire an offensive coordinator.
It definitely did.
Call plays.
Yeah, DJ Lagway ended up doing 14 of 22 for 133 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 1 interception. However, I'm pretty sure that interception, Marcus Burke ran the wrong route. Because I think DK should have been open there for hopefully a touchdown. But Burke just... You could see after the play, he was making the hand signal he made before the play. So I guess Burke just didn't get the call or something. Don't like to see that. What happened to Elijah Badger in this game?
I literally was in the first half. At first, I was is he hurt? Because I was no, he's out there. He's just not contributing. It was weird. I don't really. Maybe they just sold out to stop him. I don't know, man. 2
catches for 11 yards. I know one of the catches was a nice play after. I don't even remember the other catch.
Only 4 targets too for Badger.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, credit to the FSU defense. I said going into this game, FSU's game plan to try to win it or keep it close, get pressure on Lagway. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And then on offense, just keep going short and simple, which honestly they did decently well tonight. The problem was they fumbled the ball, 5 fumble recoveries for the Gators. I mean, we were giving them the short stuff like we've been doing to every team. But, I mean, you just can't fumble the ball 8 times in a game. That's just not a recipe for success.
Also doesn't help giving up 8 sacks, which they did today. I mean, the defensive line, like that was why I loved the matchup and why I was pretty bullish in my score prediction, which I thought what would happen. I thought what ultimately happened would happen, which is that like Kromenhoek would just have absolutely no time to do anything. And he really didn't. So, I mean, between the fumbles and just having no time, it really scrambled anything they had potentially going for them on offense in this game. So, like, despite the fact that, like, I don't think Florida played particularly well and it was, like, a disappointing performance based on what I was expecting, at no point really after the early goings was I, like, actually concerned that Florida was in danger of losing this game, just because Florida State just did not have, at any point, have the juice on offense in this game.
No, and Cam Jackson talked about how he got hurt on the first play. He finished with 2 sacks. You had Jaden Robinson, the linebacker, getting the start because of Pup's injury. He also finished with 2 sacks. Tyreek Stepp had the first strip sack. I think it was a strip sack that FSU recovered, so he had a sack. Same thing with Gums, Jack Pyburn, and Sharif Denson, who had the last sack of the game, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I'm not sure what to think of the team now. They kind of just felt unprepared. Like they're celebrating the win and everything after the game. You know, they're smoking the cigars and everything. Yeah. But man, the team just didn't look right tonight. I don't know what it was. I mean, I guess FSU came prepared for the game more than us, kind of.
Yeah. How do you feel, just out of curiosity real quick, how do you feel about the cigars? Like, I mean, I personally, like, I'm fine with it. I do think it's kind of a weird look against a 2-10 team, but like, whatever.
I mean, it's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
I mean, a team that had won the past 2 games against you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really mind it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, no one's going to get hurt or anything from it, I assume. So I really am not going to complain about it.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think unprepared is a good way to put it. I mean, I'll give some credit to the people in the comments last week who, when we were giving our score predictions, were like, it's a rivalry game, throw out the records. I don't think that's true, and that's not what happened today. But like, I think there was something to that. Just an FSU team that was going to come out in this game like with absolutely nothing to lose, and they sort of did. I mean, they threw their best punch. It just wasn't that much. Like, it wasn't that intimidating, but I mean, I think it's pretty clear Florida still has a lot of issues as a team that need to be addressed in the offseason. Like, and I think a lot of those issues are coaching. And like, this is why my take has changed on Billy in the sense that I'm fine giving Billy a 4th season. Like, I've come around to giving Billy year 4. I haven't necessarily come around on the things that I think Billy's still doing that are limiting factors for the team.
Yeah. Interesting little note DJ Lagway said after the game, I'm definitely going to be involved in recruiting and the transfer portal, but the biggest thing is trying to keep the guys that we have here. I mean, just what you like to see from your leader, and your QB and everything. But yeah, about Billy, I mean, we definitely need an OC now. I mean, the play calls were kind of just also uninspired. Sorry. I mean, I honestly don't really know what to say. Like, I feel like we should have won this game we should have scored 40 points. I mean,
yeah.
I will say FSU's defense still has a ton of talent on it, especially in that secondary with a guy like Fentrell Cypress and Azariah Thomas. Those are 2 guys who will get chances in the NFL. And then they do have some guys in D-line like Darrell Jackson, Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr., probably forgetting somebody who's pretty good on there as well. So it's like they do have talent, but like they don't have more talent than Ole Miss, right?
No,
they don't have more talent than LSU did.
No,
and we played way better against them. I mean, we scored more points against FSU than we did against Ole Miss or LSU. But like, I still feel like we played way better against both of those teams offensively than we did against FSU today. I mean,
yeah, and also, I mean, 14 of those points came off turnovers, by the way, too. So like that was like
what? 17.
So you might be right. I'm just going off of what the stats I'm looking at. They credit it with 14 defensive points off turnovers. I think you might be right though. I think that is a mistake actually now that I think about it. But yeah, I mean, like, I just don't. It doesn't feel like there's really like any calibration of the offense or the game plan to like the team you're playing. Like it feels like Billy's trying to do the same things all the time. Like there's no adjusting, like there's no, like when they started putting pressure on Lagway, it doesn't really feel like what we did changed, which I actually will give them credit to an extent. Like I think you kind of touched on this too, but like they did sort of adapt, trying to get quicker stuff going when Chrome and Hook was facing a lot of pressure. It just didn't really work. I feel like Florida kind of just stuck with its strategy and was like, we'll still just brute force you, run over you eventually, force enough turnovers, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But nothing felt like schematically like Billy came into this game with a clear plan and was able to have his way. That's not how it felt at all to me.
No, it didn't. But like, hey, we still walked away with the win.
Oh yeah.
Finished 7-5. We'll see who our bowl opponent is next weekend, Thursday. So we'll have a show next Thursday as well. So it's not just during the season. Well, don't think we'll cover the opponent yet after that show because it'll be right then. So we probably want some time to think on that. But
yeah,
chance for 8 wins still. Lots and lots of recruiting momentum. And our rivals. I mean, let's talk about a bad week for some of our rivals. I mean, let's look at Miami. I mean, embarrassing loss. I mean, a loss that kicks them probably out of the playoffs against Syracuse. I mean, after week 1, I was honestly one of the ones saying I thought Miami was probably going to run the table. And honestly, they probably should have ran the table.
Yeah, they should have.
I mean, losses at Georgia Tech and Syracuse are not teams they should be losing to. I mean, that defense. What happened to Ruben Bain this year? I know going into the season, everyone was calling him going to be one of the best players in college football. Really haven't heard his name at all. But
no, nothing. Like their whole team. Like I mean, this was their dream team. Like this is not. They're not running this back. There are a lot of these.
No.
Excuse me. A lot of these guys are leaving after this year. Like they're going to have a hard time. They're going to have to. They're going to. They're in the FSU position now of having to hit on the portal again because so many of these guys are moving on. Like. Hard to not feel like you wasted a season given the schedule that you got there. And I will give like Syracuse credit. Like this was one of the games like early, even before I think they lost to Georgia Tech. This was kind of one of the ones I had circled as maybe a place they could slip up just because there are very few teams they play that can just score at will on a bad defense, which I'm kind of inclined to say Miami is a bad defense right now.
Yeah.
And Syracuse is one of them. And you saw that today. I mean, they answered every single time. I don't think did Miami stop them once? They scored like 49 points.
Miami was up 21-0.
Oh, yeah, true. You're right. Did Miami stop them once after that comeback run? Yeah.
I mean, what Syracuse scored, they finished with 52 points?
I think so.
And they had 14 points at halftime. So I don't think they stopped them in the second half at all. I mean, it makes our matchup next season look very interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if Miami's going to end up losing players to the portal as well.
I mean, I'm curious, like, what the feeling is on Cristobal. Because, like, on the one hand, they had the kind of season that he needed to have. They got over the hump in a lot of ways. But also, like, I don't know if you can feel... Yeah, 10 wins, exactly. They won, like, what? 7-5 in his first 2 years.
5 and 7 year one.
That's what I meant. Like, going to the last 2 years, like 7 wins and 5 wins or something like that. Like, I mean, they got over the hump in a lot of ways, but it's like hard to feel incredible about the trajectory. I mean, he's recruiting well, so like that'll probably stay up. But like we've just seen the pitfalls of doing the aggressive on the portal thing, and now they've got to hit on a quarterback again. Yeah,
makes our matchup next season look very interesting. I mean,
you just don't know what they're going to look like. I mean, there's so many questions about them, about their entire roster makeup.
Yeah, like if their defense is still this bad next year, I mean, I'm DJ Lagway. I mean, hopefully we hire an OC and hopefully we hit on some portal guys. Maybe we finish with like a 5-star receiver in Dallas Wilson or Jamie French. I mean, if you're Billy right now, you're in a very advantageous position. You have maybe the best young quarterback in all of college football. You have a very young defense that looks really good while still being very injured. You have all the momentum in the world in the recruiting world. I mean, if you don't take advantage of this, you're never really. I don't think you ever will be able to do it ever again. I mean, if he doesn't figure out a way to get this team to 9-10 wins next year, I mean, it's kind of just like you gotta call him a failure at that point. Even like 8 wins is, I don't think it's good enough.
No, I'm with you. Like that's why I like just some of the discourse this week, like on Twitter and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are taking very premature victory laps about like being right about Billy Napier.
Absolutely.
Like he's had a nice stretch to close the year.
He
He's done enough to save his job. Like he still has a losing record here, I think, right?
By 1 game. I had 18-19 now.
Yeah, okay. So still has a losing record here through 3 seasons. Like, let's have a little bit of perspective here. Like, this guy has bought himself a year 4 in which the expectations are going to be extremely high.
They will, yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying it's playoff or bust next year, but I am saying you better be in that conversation. Like, this time next year, you better be right in that mix. Like, if you're not in the playoff, you better be like ranked 14 or something like that. Like, you better be right there on the outside looking in. Like, there's got to be reason to believe you're going to be in that national title mix for what I guess would be Lagway, assuming everything goes as planned, would be Lagway's 3rd and final season as a quarterback.
Yeah, it does make me very interested because I think Florida's attacking the recruiting class heavier than I anticipated. So I do wonder how heavily we are going to attack the portal this year, because I do wonder if we're going heavier into the recruiting class than the portal, so that then this class can end up being maybe top 10, and maybe we get there. I mean, it seems like there's a small chance we do get there. And then hit the portal, get some couple key guys, But then the year after, for that championship push with Lagway's junior season, you hit the portal heavier, and then you have those sophomores now who were part of that class that, maybe is a year late, that help you go win a championship. So I do wonder if they kind of just settle for maybe like just missing out on the playoffs. So then the next season, I'm not going to say they're settling for just missing out on the playoffs, but maybe instead of just going all out this year for maybe where your cap is a 1st round win, so, maybe you go a little less than that. And then the next season you go for where you're possibly a championship team.
I mean, maybe. And like my thing with that is like, if that's the plan, it's like, okay, like that's fine. But if you're going to not go aggressive and you're not going to portal a safety or good multiple good receivers or an edge rusher, like these positions that we're concerned about going into next season, if you're not going to do that, that's fine. But you still better find a way to go 9-3. Like doesn't matter. You got to find a way to like, these excuses are not going to work next year in year 4. Like, I mean, ultimately, like, I'm sorry, say what you will about like the way it ended, but if it's taking you 4 years to even start to scratch the results that like Dan Mullen got fired for, like it's time for a broader conversation. And we're not there yet with Billy, obviously, because he's had a nice close to this season. But I feel like a lot of people are taking their eye off the ball a little bit in terms of the stakes going into next year.
Yeah. I think at this point of the show now, we need to be a bit more positive. 20-point
you're right. This has definitely been a little.
We've been like very negative so far. You know,
it was an ugly game to watch. In fairness, it wasn't a fun game to watch.
It was definitely kind of boring.
Yeah,
like the first quarter especially, because the injuries. There was the chain mistakes. Like in that first 5 minutes, there was already 2 commercial breaks. I mean, we had more commercial breaks in game time. So it did not get off to a good start. But, let's look at some positives from this game. I mean, inconsistently, the running game still worked.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting those. Well, we had over 200 yards this game.
235.
235?
Yeah.
Yeah, we ran for 235 yards today against, a decent front seven, a talented front seven.
Yeah, that's
so
how I would put it.
Yeah. A talented front seven, yeah. So give the offensive line some credit there. I mean, they made the hole so we could get those big plays. The 65-yard touchdown run for Montreal Johnson. I mean, it's nice to see Montreal in his last regular season game, maybe last game. I don't think he opts out of the bowl games, but
I doubt it.
His last regular season game, get a big play like that. And I mean, continue to prove the doubters wrong. I wish he got one more yard so we could hit 100 in back-to-back games. But I mean, you like to see that Ball with the 88 and Jackson early on when Montreal and Ball kind of struggled to run early on. Jackson ended up being the one to run in for our first touchdown of the game. So it's nice to see him have some bright spots as well. And it does make me wonder that running back room next year. I assume Ball is going to be the number one starter.
Yeah, that seems fair.
But it also seems like Treon Webb is going to return. And then you have Jacoby Jackson as well. It does make this running back room look very interesting. Maybe someone transfers out after the spring.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I agree with you that it doesn't exactly sound like Treon Webb is intending to transfer, but they're got three running backs committed right now in the 2025 class.
What I've heard with Gasper is that if he comes, he's not going to be on scholarship, so he'll walk on.
Okay, so still though, so you're still talking those two guys plus two high school guys. Sorry, those two guys Webb and two high school guys.
Right? Montreal leaving as well.
Yeah, I'm saying minus Montreal, but I'm saying Baugh and Jackson plus Webb plus two high school guys. So I mean, you're getting a deep room.
Daniels.
Oh yeah, sorry, plus KD Daniels. Like, so one of those guys is gonna leave, right? Like, how do you not have some attrition there?
I think Daniels is probably the guy to leave.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe go back home. I mean, Ole Miss, you might be able to start for Ole Miss next year with how much they're losing on their offense.
It's true.
So maybe Daniels is the guy to leave. Or Webb just gets pushed down the depth chart and has to leave because there's a world where he's the running back 3 next year. And if he's going to be in his 3rd season, if he really wants to play at the next level, it's just he can't really prove it here right now. Unless he does improve or impress, I mean, he was hurt for most of the year. So, I mean, maybe he steps up when Montreal gets hurt, if he didn't get hurt.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think people really expected that Jaden Baugh and Jackson would be making the impact that they're having at this point in the season either. So, like, you never know how things are going to shake up and who's going to get the reps. It's just that's a real talented group for it to be just 5 guys going in there like at the start of the fall. I have a hard time believing that happens.
Lyric, I assume that's pronounced. Yep, go Gators.
Go Gators.
Great win for us, man. Billy got a cigar after the game as well. So that's a fun little tidbit. He was also diminishing us getting the flag. I mean, you could also say that's just coach speak.
I mean, he's got to say that.
Yeah.
I truly hope that that's not how Billy is acting about that behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. That's all I'll say.
And Mike Norvell refused to shake his hand, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's kind of what it looked like. So what it looked like to me was that they were going to shake hands when Norvell noticed the flag planting and then ran to stop that. And they Billy tried to go shake his hand after that. And then they didn't. That's kind of what it looked like happened to me.
I don't know, Mike. I mean, let's also talk about FSU for a sec. Hiring Gus Malzahn to be the offensive coordinator. That's just a horrible hire. I don't get it. I mean, when's the last time Gus Malzahn had a good offense?
Yeah, I mean,
2013?
They were okay. Like, his offenses, early UCF when they were still in the American were, okay.
Yeah, that's the American.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, did he have Dylan Gabriel at one point there? I can't remember the long and winding turn of Gabriel's career. What was that?
Gabriel left Oklahoma when Heupel left UCF to Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really had a good off. I guess you could say the Jarrett Stidham year, 2017
with Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah. But I mean, we're kind of grasping at straws there. I mean, what's interesting to me about that is that Norvell is giving up his full-time play calling responsibilities.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was already known that he was going to hire an OC, but they were talking about more fun, exciting names like a Brandon Marion from UNLV. So it's like
that would have been a weird. I feel like that would have been a weird fit though. There, like I don't know if that
maybe
would have worked. I don't know if they have like the personnel for that offense. I'm not sure.
that's the exciting hire at the least.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that builds some. Maybe that can help you get some transfer portal players in.
Well, the one benefit to hiring Gus is it looks like they're now going to go just poach UCF's class after Florida poached theirs. It looks like they're just going to go steal UCF's at least offensive class.
Don't know how much of an advantage that is for how much of a bonus that is for Florida State though.
Although UCF's class probably ranks higher than theirs right now, doesn't it?
Maybe
it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't.
I don't. They just had two guys. I mean, the two guys decommit 4 stars. So
yeah. I guess I more meant like before today.
Yeah, actually, one of them was a 2026 guy, so that wouldn't affect it. So you can probably add like 10 points or so to the class. Let me pull up the team rankings real quick. Looking for UCF. Florida State is currently 38th. UCF, not even top 50.
Ooh, okay, never mind.
UCF, maybe did I miss them? Wow, UCF is now below USF, 69th, below FAU.
That's
and
tough.
Washington State.
That is tough.
So I mean, then they're only missing one player. So they have a 167. So maybe you add like what 10 points to them for one low 4-star offensive tackle. That's like a difference of them being 65th, below USF still.
It's not ideal.
I mean, they're recruiting. I mean, they would have got some guys at the end of the class that boost them up. Like USF has 24 commits to UCF's 12. But I mean, still, recruiting below your lower level rival, that's just not a good look.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really like this kind of feels like FSU like not really having a lot of direction, but still trying to pull something off that's gonna like seem flashy. Which stealing a sitting power conference coach from the home state is flashy. I just don't know if it's good.
Yeah, I don't even know if many people think it's good. So it's like
I saw very mixed reactions. I mean, I saw a lot of UCF fans being like, "Thanks for taking him off."
Oh, I know UCF fans,
which is not always the best thing to see.
I know UCF fans. I know the people that go to UCF that they've wanted him gone. It was pretty obvious he was going to be gone after this year.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they finished their season, they start 3-0 or 4-0.
I don't think they lost 8 in a row, right?
Yeah,
did they lose 8 in a row to end the year?
That's honestly what I'm thinking.
Oh my god! If they did,
I mean, they lost to Utah on Friday night. So let me find their schedule real quick.
I've got it up right now. They beat Arizona. They beat Arizona.
Right, yeah.
They started 3-0. Beat Arizona a couple weeks ago.
Yep. So I mean, really after that, like Iowa State game, I think that's really when everyone figured out that Gus is probably moving on. Gus's offense, I don't even know when it's just not good. I don't see it. I mean, it's a run-heavy offense.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying Gus has worked when he's had a quarterback, but they don't have a quarterback. So it's like, what are we doing here?
Well, I mean, Luke Kromenhoek, I mean, mobility-wise, I like that soft.
I guess I shouldn't like discount Kromenhoek. Like he's had moments this year that are good. I don't know if I feel great that he's like the long-term like face of the program quarterback here. I don't know. We'll see about that.
But when was the offense is really good for Auburn under Gus? Like you look at
Nick Marshall years
in 2013 with Trey Mason as well.
Yeah, and I think Marshall was there for at least 2014 too. I can't remember if he was there for 15.
Which wasn't that like a 6-win year for them? Or
I thought they won like 8. They had a lot of like mid, like kind of after that first year, they had a lot of like mid, like 7-5, 8-4 kind of seasons.
And then that 2017, like a lot of defense on that carried them, and you know some decent guys like Kerryon Johnson. Stidham was all right, but
NFL starting quarterback or part-time NFL starting quarterback Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, I mean, if Jarrett Stidham, a guy I always go back, Ian Book started a primetime Monday Night Football game for the Saints 2 years ago. If Ian Book can start an NFL game, Graham Mertz can at least become a backup in the NFL. That's how I look at it.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. Any other positives you want to take away from this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, I thought the defense was fantastic.
Yes.
I like missed opportunities, sure. Like they had an overthrow on a deep ball that could have been a touchdown when the game was, I think, kind of semi out of hand. But like, look, they got insane amount of pressure, and like that's what I wanted to see. Like the defensive line has improved so much down the stretch of this season, and you just wanted to see against an offensive line that we know has struggled. You just wanted to see them dominate, and they did, and they made things really hard for Chrome and Hoke. I'd say like I don't know who had the. I think Lagway had the better game than Chrome and Hoke. I mean, Lagway had probably more bad throws, but I think Chrome and Hoke was much more affected by the pressure. Like, I think Lagway did a better job of handling it and making plays in spite of it.
Lagway looked sluggish. Do you think his hamstring? Because FSU was getting pressure on him. Do you think they re-aggravated the hamstring a bit?
I don't know, or maybe he just wasn't as good as we thought maybe he was last week. Do you think he had the green light to run tonight? I mean, he tried it at least once.
On the first drive, he got a yard short. He didn't look good when that first run he did. It was a 3rd and 7 or something. Ended up being a yard short. You could tell he just didn't look right to run. Yeah. Against last week against Ole Miss, like he had a couple scrambles. He looked more stiff tonight. So I don't know. I think something must have happened with the hamstring.
That's one thing I'm looking forward to in a bowl game is seeing Lagway have like a month to kind of get that settled and more comfortable. Hopefully he comes out looking better.
I hope we don't get the Gasparilla Bowl because that's the one on the 20th. I want to wait for like a New Year's Bowl or like the 27th. That's an extra week or plus. So I do hope that we get something like that. I don't know whether to be impressed with Tony Livingston or not, because he almost had a really good catch, but like a good play from the DB to knock it loose, end up getting the touchdown as well. I don't know whether or not he could be like a starting tight end for us next season or not.
I mean, he's probably looked the most promising. Like Boardingham, we've talked about it, but like Boardingham, I don't know what to make of it. Like I liked him a lot. I guess so. I mean, I was really optimistic about him coming into the year, and like I don't even think he's like looked bad. He's just not even getting the chances. He's not a featured player in the offense.
Yeah, you could say that. Also, blocking hasn't really been there for him either. No. Which, as a tight end, in a run-heavy offense or a run scheme offense, you kind of need to do that. So,
yeah.
Billy Napier also talks about recruiting. I'm going to read this real quick. We've done a good job evaluating players and recruiting them. That's not been our issue here. What we needed to do is prove to ourselves on the grass, prove to recruits we can teach and develop players, and that's our formula. Yeah, it's been working the past couple weeks.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I agree that like I don't think the reason like the things that have been hindering Florida's recruiting under Billy Napier has been like the fact that Billy Napier is a bad recruiter. I think all the history and evidence shows that that's the opposite of that is true. I think it's pretty clear that recruits just wanted to see like some sort of proof of concept here on the field, like some sort of evidence that like A, you're not about to get fired, and like B, that like there's actually something you're building toward here that you can develop players and make them, better than they were when they got here, which I think there's a lot of guys that are kind of, bearing proof of that right now.
And tomorrow night we will be doing a kind of mock class on the live show before National Signing Day on Wednesday. Man, it feels so weird National Signing Day being Wednesday. And then that's got to be a nightmare for coaches. Because they got to practice and get ready, especially if you're playing a conference championship. I mean, you got to practice to get ready for that game. You got to make sure that you don't lose any players in the last minute. And then you got to worry about making the playoffs or who you're going to play in a bowl game. So definitely a nightmare for them. Maybe bring up a little bit of college basketball here.
Yeah.
Gators basketball team dominated the ESPN Events Invitational. I mean, I was at the tournament there, and none of the teams even looked like they were in the same class as the Gators. I mean, Wake Forest kept it close a little bit. Gators were missing shots. Wake Forest hit some shots that they hadn't made. So maybe you give the Gators like another 5+ points there in that one of like how they normally play. And that's a 20-point win against a team that's a quad 2 level win, maybe. But then that Wichita State game, they went on a 66-16 run in that game. With like 10 minutes left, 6 different players had hit a 3. I mean, not even the second half, the final 5 minutes to like, the entire rest of the game, because we had the backups in with 10 minutes left of that team plays for the rest of the season. I mean, this could be one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah. No, they look good, man. And it's nice, by the way, how many of these like because the non-conference schedule has a lot of games that are like not hard games, but they're like moderately decent power conference teams.
Yep.
I'm glad that like pretty much all of them are neutral site because they at least have a better chance of earning quad 1 status eventually. When we get to the net rankings being released sometime next month, I think is when that happens.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, man, I mean, they look really good. Like I think, we'll see if like the lack of a true point guard like is ultimately what like undoes this team, hopefully, deep into the tournament. But like there's a lot of teams in the SEC that look just dominant right now. I mean, like Auburn does, Tennessee does. And like I would throw Florida in that mix too, of the teams that look just absolutely dominant so far to start the season. So I mean, I think really good chance to finish non-conference play undefeated if you can beat a North Carolina team that's looked a little shaky.
Arizona State looks decent.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
State,
Credit, yeah,
that could be
that's gonna be maybe
win
the
right
toughest
there.
game. Yeah, because they beat, was it St. Mary's last night?
Yes, and they took Gonzaga to the final a couple minutes, like a couple weeks ago too.
Yeah.
So Arizona State's definitely a decent looking team, and then FSU is a quad 1 win right now too. FSU, their loss is only to us, so. Maybe that loss or win.
Are they really that high? Are they top 75 in KenPom?
Yeah, they're like in the 50s.
Wow.
60s
okay.
now.
Didn't realize that. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're their only loss. I mean, they haven't really played anyone good, but like, it'll be nice. But it's 12:17 a.m. late night for us. Do you have anything else you want to say, or?
I would say always feels good beating Florida State. Wins in this rivalry over the last decade haven't come easy for the Gators. So nice to see one happen. Nice to see the team finish 7-5. I think a record that pretty much everyone here would have taken if it was offered to us before the season. Was a weird year, kind of a roller coaster, but wrap things up in a nice way. 3-game winning streak, huge for Billy to go out with that kind of momentum. And let's go win a bowl game.
Yeah, I'm going to finish it off here with, man, I can't believe the season's already coming to a close. I mean, Florida State fans, their season's already over. We got one more game left. Luckily, we have a good basketball team to hold us over until March. And then it's going to be basically nothing, feels like. Maybe baseball. But it flies by, man. And I'm just going to end it there. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We will see you guys at 7 o'clock tomorrow. And as always, go Gators.